Morning, welcome back to Eastwood TV. I'm your host, Mr. Ramsey, and my co-host.
It's Lena.
And we're here with episode 8, a very important episode as we prepare for some things that are happening here at Eastwood. So let's jump right into it.
As always, my friends, make sure your ears are listening, your eyes are watching, your voices are quiet, and your body is still.
We want you to focus your attention. So we want you to concentrate, use your eyes, ears, and your brain, and try to ignore those distractions.
So like Mr. Ramsey said, today we're going to talk about some important things. Here we go.
Boy, here we go. Change. To make or become different. Change is a difficult thing. But we're not just talking about change. We are talking about accepting change. You know what? Life is full of change, big changes, little changes, and even the good and bad changes. Change is something new. It's something that is different. We experience change all the time. In just one day, you can read a new book, meet a new friend, watch a new movie, try different foods, discover a new game, or even go to sleep later than usual. That's all change. But let's face it, it's normal to feel that change is overwhelming. It can be unexpected. Change can be uncertain and even scary. That can make us feel nervous, frustrated, or upset, especially if we have to change the way we are used to doing something. But it doesn't mean we can't do it. Right, Mrs. Lena?
Right. We can approach change with optimism. We can be positive, right? Have some positivity. And we can look at change as an opportunity or a new adventure or a new experience. And all we have to do is try. We can accept change and we can move forward.
Change is so tough.
Right. So I know you're probably thinking, you got to be kidding me, right?
Meow.
No one wants to change their routine or how they're used to doing things. And you're right. We are all creatures of habit. We like consistency. We like predictability because it's safe and the same. But what if change can help us? What if we can learn something new in the process? What if change can help us move forward and create new opportunities for ourselves? Right? Then it's a little bit different.
A different way to look at change. But all right, Miss Lena. So how can they do this? It's really the how. I don't get it. So how are we going to explain a good way to accept change?
Okay, so we're going to cover 2 steps. The first one we're going to talk about is flexible thinking. So flexible thinking helps us to adapt to changes, improvise, transition, and come up with new ways to solve problems. Flexible thinking allows us to understand that we can't change the circumstances of situations, but we can change how we approach it. Flexible thinking helps us to think about something in a new way, which means we can let go of an old way in order to do something a different way. That's flexible thinking.
That's a lot of change there.
It is.
We have to switch gears and look at things differently. We have to let go of the old ways of doing something in order to do something new. And you know what? That's hard for a lot of people, not just students, for adults as well. We adapt. It's about changing our way of thinking in order to make progress and go forward, even when it's unclear or scary.
Yeah, so you guys are like, you're probably thinking, have I ever used flexible thinking before? Has this ever been a thing that I have? And the answer is yes. We do it all the time. Every day we do it. So here are some examples. In your routines at home and at school. Have you ever come to school one day and had a substitute teacher? Or has mom or dad ever came home late from work, when you didn't know? Can you switch from one subject to another throughout the day? Those are all changes that we do, that we deal with in our routine, and they help us to adapt to those changes, and that's flexible thinking.
Okay. Sports. Oh, I love sports. I play sports my whole life, and I can't stand COVID because it took my ability to play sports away, at least temporarily. You learn to adapt to unforeseen circumstances and change in sports. You learn new strategies or you follow a new game plan in the middle of the game. When you are selected with a new team, you will have to deal with new leaders, a different coach, new teammates, and maybe a new role within your team. Facing all these challenges and changes makes you a flexible thinker.
So even in reading, we use flexible thinking when we learn to read. It helps us to understand how letter combinations make different sounds, how words can be used in more than one way, how we can understand information that when we're reading in a text, like different perspectives, characters, those are all things that we use when we're reading, and that helps us have flexible thinking.
Writing. Here it helps us to organize our thoughts, come up with supporting details, keep track of the main ideas, check for grammar and spelling mistakes. And in writing, you don't always get it right the first time, so you have to go back and change your thinking and change your writing. And so by doing all those things, you're showing your flexible thinking.
Here's this one, math.
Subject, yes.
So flexible thinking is so important with math because it helps us to understand that there is more than one way to solve a problem. This flexibility allows us to see how a new type of problem can be solved using a formula we already know.
And last but not least, learning different languages. I was just talking with Tara about this morning. We were talking about learning Korean and Mandarin and Cantonese and Chinese and Spanish and all the different languages of the world. Flexible thinking also plays a role when we want to learn foreign languages. In other languages, letters can have different sounds. Sentences aren't put together the way they are in English, so you have to adapt and change your way of thinking. Be a flexible thinker.
Yep. So you see, we already are flexible thinkers. We use it every day. And remember, when you're a flexible thinker, that means it can help you to adjust to new situations, learn from your mistakes, deal and cope with change, help you in school and at home, help you to try something new. That one's important, and take advantage of opportunities. That's the real important one.
Thinking helps us do a lot of things. Now that you listed out, that's a lot of good things that come from change and flexible thinking.
Okay. So that's the first step. Accepting change is having to have flexible thinking. So that leads us to our next step. And this next step is taking responsible risks, because flexible thinkers take responsible risks.
Wait a minute. You said risk. That doesn't sound responsible. Like, what do you mean?
It doesn't. And I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
so I know
risk.
that word sounds kind of scary, right? But let's take a look at this video to help us kind of explain what it not is.
All right, so this is a not responsible risk. Okay. Oh, no. See? No.
Totally not responsible and not the risk we want you to take.
You put the helmet on, which was cool, but then the sign said danger and the cliff, like that wasn't it. So that was a bad risk. Not responsible at all.
No, so that's not what we mean when we say the word risk. And we know that some people think of risk and think of injury or loss or the possibility of something bad happening. And in some cases, that's it. And that's true. But that's not the risk we want you to take. We're talking about responsible risks. So let's look at the next video. It'll help explain it a little bit more.
All right, cool. Much better. All right, I like that. You see, I even like that he turned around and said, "Nah, not that risk. Let's take this risk." When we say responsible risk, we mean trying something new. It means thinking about your past experiences, like our friend the brain, and said, "All right, I'm not going to do that again," to help you make a choice. Looking at the good and bad consequences, think about what's safe and appropriate, what makes sense, and then taking a chance at something new. It's not just jumping out there without counting the cost. Taking on a new opportunity and be willing to learn from our failures or mistakes, that's taking a responsible risk.
Yes, and responsible risk takers take smart and educated risks. It helps you to be brave enough to try a new activity, to volunteer, and ask the questions you're sometimes not comfortable asking. Taking responsible risks help you to learn from your mistakes, accept failures as a learning opportunity, and it can open up new experiences by doing familiar things differently, right? So
And
here are some examples of some responsible risk takers, Mr. Ramsey.
I was about to say, who do we have over here?
We have Abraham Lincoln, we have Amelia Earhart, and we have T.S. Eliot.
Okay. Okay. Good. 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 Ah, look at that. Challenge accepted. I guess I have to be a responsible risk taker now after this video. Responsible risk takers say, I'll try and I can do this. They are optimistic and willing to take on a challenge, try unfamiliar things, and accept change. And you know what? I accept the challenge.
Yeah, and I think I did too because I have a
Oh,
certain
you already did it. It says
I
I
already
did it.
Yes. So like we mentioned before during our coping episode, it takes courage to cope, especially when coping with change because change can be uncertain, right? But also know that coping is a courageous act and it takes courage to adapt to new things and change an old way of thinking to a new way of thinking in order to move forward. That's coping. Coping with change means we find solutions, we think flexibly, and we take responsible risks if we need to.
And remember, we are Eagles of Eastwood. We are brave, we are resilient, and we are always willing to grow and learn. And always know Eastwood is a family. So when things seem too hard or too scary, we are always here to help. Myself, Mrs. Lena, your teachers, the office staff, the supervision aides, all of us. Never be afraid to ask for help. Take the responsible risk if you need to.
And guys, also be confident in what you know and what you've learned. This is going to help you too. You know how to use problem solving steps. You know how to calm down. You know what it's like to have empathy and to do the right thing. And these tools are going to help you cope with the change and accept it.
And now for my final thought, probably my most important final thought to date. As many of you already know, some of us, not all, will be coming back to campus for school to reopen. Safety is our primary concern. It always has been. But I'm going to be honest with you, school is going to be very different than it was a year ago when you guys were last here. There are a lot of new rules and guidelines we will have to follow to keep you, your families, your friends, the teachers, and our support staff safe and healthy. These changes may make you frustrated, disappointed, or even leave you sad. But we need those of you coming back to be flexible thinkers and to take responsible risk with us. We need you to give the new way of having school a chance. Accept and follow the new rules and be positive as we take on this new adventure together. My Eagles of Eastwood, let's move forward safely as a team with courage and give it the best we can. You know what? I'm be honest, Miss Lena, I'm nervous because the unknown and change, it's nothing that I said, oh, we've been here, we've done this before. It hasn't. So we're going to have to be flexible thinkers. We're going to have to take some calculated, responsible risk and still follow the rules so that we all stay safe and healthy.
Absolutely, Mr.
But I think together we'll make it through this. I think we will be stronger together and hopefully get to a place where everybody can come back to school like we always were before.
Right.
But guys, we want to say thanks for tuning in to this episode. I hope you share it with a friend because this information will do good to everyone that listens and applies it to their life. Make sure you check out the other episodes. We have SEL lessons and PBIS lessons. And every Wednesday, 8:30, we do our assembly. We're going to be coming from a new studio. Ain't that right, Miss Lena?
Yes, it is.
We still are building it and creating it and trying to think of what it's going to look like. But we got some new things in store for you guys. So always remember our big three: be safe, be respectful, be responsible, and we'll see you next time.